My wife Amina, 34, and I, 35, met at a friend's party. During the summer holidays, one of my pals celebrated their 30th birthday. At the time, I was under a lot of stress because my mother was sick and her health did not look good. So my ex-friend, male, 35, was going or was supposed to be a good distraction for me, and it actually helped me get destroyed. So there was this lady who was introduced as Amina and was a friend of my ex-wife. She seemed lonely as well. I mention this because I noticed she wasn't paying much attention to what the other females were doing. She appeared deep in contemplation, or rather disturbed. She was incredibly lovely. Her gorgeous ebony skin suited her perfectly. And she was African American, I found out later. You know, she captured my attention and heart that night. I was afraid to approach her and inquire what she was thinking about. So I resorted to staring at her and admiring her natural beauty from a distance. Her beauty charmed me, unaware that I was captivated and enthralled by my near-death experience. But we'll never know unless it's said and done correctly. I was scared to approach her, so I just continued to admire her from a distance. But the manner she was out of her head concerned me. It was as if she was going through something significant. As time passed, I noticed her standing up and heading to the kitchen. I immediately resolved that I would not pass up the opportunity to speak with her. So I excused myself from the gentleman and dashed to where she was, since my former wife had beaten me to it. When I arrived, she did not appear well at all. I watched her sobbing so hard she had hiccups, so I got her a drink of water with sugar. I had heard that it helped to normalize the nervous system and calm the individual down. I summoned my ex-wife and took her to the bedroom where she could relax. I was worried about her and wondered what had happened to cause her to break down in front of a stranger. The celebration finished later, so I headed home. My mind drifted back to my own wretched life. I was thinking about my mother's health and everything else that wasn't going well in my life when I suddenly remembered Amina and her beauty. She had really taken my weak, chilly heart. I noticed that her spirit was pleading for help. She needed a knight in shining armor and I was already ready to be one for her. The next morning, I drove to Mike's house and made an excuse about wanting to check on him and see how they were doing after the previous night. Mike smiled at me and explained that the lady was okay and had returned to her apartment. That is how I obtained it. She was living in the flat, and I assumed that whatever she was going through was a family or partner issue, but I didn't ask any additional questions, so I rushed directly to the hospital to check on my mother. So Amina was on my mind all the way to the hospital. I even persuaded my mother to persevere since I had found her a daughter-in-law who would care for her. I'm not sure why I stated that because I never spoke with the person. I had no idea where she was staying, but every time I thought about her, my heart beat like a drum. Am I already in love? I mean, her beauty has already swept me away, so I might say it was love at first sight. A week later, I visited this eatery, name is concealed, to meet with an investor in the founded, but I didn't have much funds to launch it, therefore I wanted an investor to help me grow it and gain more clients. So when I walked into the cafe, she was the one who approached the table I was sitting at. I didn't notice her when she approached the table since I was engrossed reviewing my presentation. She greeted and welcomed me, then asked if I wanted to order anything or get a drink. Obviously, I had to look up at the person speaking to me. To my astonishment, it was Sweet Melon and beautiful. I was astonished to see her working as a waiter in the cafe I was visiting. Small world. Hey, her beauty was extraordinary and her voice was as sweet as her ebony skin. She had a nice and appealing smile on her face. I caught myself looking at her for a few seconds before she returned me to earth. So I bought water and informed her that I was waiting for a customer and would not be ordering anything until he arrived. A few minutes later, the client arrived, so I called her again and ordered. The actual reason I ordered water at first was because I wanted her to keep returning to my table so I could enjoy her beauty without seeing tears in her eyes. Her warm and innocent grin made me want her even more. I was taken, you know. Call me weak. I do not care. As long as she was the one making me weak. However, because I am weak, it sent me straight to hell and back. After the meeting, I decided to stay a little later, hoping to chat with her. I sought her services again, but this time I didn't want to order anything, just acquire her name. I already had it, but I still wanted it from her. So when she arrived at my table, she asked if I wanted to order. Silly me. I just inquired whether I recognized her from anywhere because she seems familiar. Stupid and idiotic, right? But what would I have said? Because my heart was pounding outside my chest. Words came out of my mouth. Luckily, she confirmed that I had seen her the previous week at Mike's birthday celebration, which was held at his house. I was whipped by someone who was not even my girlfriend, so I inquired if she was feeling better after what she had been through. I attempted to speak with her, but I was aware that my questions and conversations were ineffective and dull. When she informed me she had to go back to work, I gathered the guts to ask for her phone number. She was first skeptical, but I pleaded her and said that all I wanted to do was check on her and be a friend. She'd have someone to talk to or vent to whenever she was feeling sick. So she offered me her phone number when she delivered my bill. My heart felt at ease. I was pleased that my initial step had been effective. I spent 4 days deciding whether to call or text her. My palms were sweating as I stared at her numbers. I was nervous. I suddenly found myself at a loss for words with her. Words were failing me. I was a coward, correct? She made me nervous, which scared me because I was not the type of person to abruptly lose words. Yes, I once had a fiancé, so a high school sweetheart. I loved her, and she betrayed me in the most horrible manner. She became entangled, or should I say, she entered into a relationship with my brother-in-law, which harmed my sister's relationship to the point that she committed herself. Since then I've ceased using and practicing the term love because it took away my sister and made my mother miserable, putting her health in peril. A week later I went back to the cafe, hoping to see her and explain why I hadn't contacted or texted her. Unfortunately, she was off duty that day, so I had to contact her to see how she was doing. Later that day, I resolved to overcome my nerves and worries and phone her. She answered her phone. I tried to chat with her, but she said she'd talk to me later. She sounded somewhat odd, as if she was terrified of something because she was whispering some of what she had said. I could not hear them clearly. And when I asked whether she was all right, she dropped her phone. That made me worry about her. My conscience kept telling me she was suffering through something and was afraid to speak up, so my mind went to another dimension. There was only one thing that could cause someone to speak that way, and it occurs when a person is in difficulty or under peril. The worst part was that I didn't even know her apartment address. That meant that if I wanted to help her, I had to call Mike and ask for Mina's address from his wife, which would not be simple, so I had to explain myself first, which I didn't like. To avoid answering 21 questions from Mike's wife, I called him and asked for the address. He also refused to assist in my efforts to help her, just went into the drain. I tried tracing her phone using her number, but it was turned off and nothing appeared. I was quite concerned about her well-being and safety. I was afraid of losing her since women had been murdered every day in this world, so my thoughts are too crazy. After another week, Amina called me. It surprised me because she had been quiet since the first and last time I called her, and Mike's wife did not respond when I went to check on her. I was relieved when I received her call. She assured me she was all right. I wasn't convinced, so I asked to visit her to make sure she was okay. Fortunately, she consented and scheduled a visit. The date she had selected came. We were supposed to meet in a neighboring restaurant. Her beauty was the first thing I noticed when she appeared. I could not get enough of her attractiveness. God spent His own exquisite time crafting her. Another thing I observed about her was that she was quite peaceful. She was not one of those noisy and outgoing girls that live in Chicago. I adored her calm demeanor. It provided the kind of peace that every man requires, since the day of our mini-date. We got along quite well. Another thing, she was not hesitant to tell you the truth, no matter how you received it. I appreciate it. A truthful individual, as it was uncommon to find them at fault or with secrets. Little did I know that I had become engaged with the worst liar of them all. She was what we call a dangerous, cunning snake that hides beneath a sheepskin. If I knew better, I'd run for my life before anything happened. I was glad she had relaxed and allowed me to be there for her in every way, even if we weren't in a relationship. But everything has a beginning, right? So I was willing to take things slowly and follow her lead. I didn't want to put pressure on her, despite the fact that my sentiments were growing stronger with each time we spent together or spoke on the phone. She didn't tell me what happened when I first phoned her. She basically told me she was going through some feminine stuff and rejected it. I didn't want to appear overly intrusive, so I changed the subject and we discussed something else. Time passed and our bond grew stronger each day. She had relaxed enough to tell me what was going on in her life. She once informed me that she had an abusive boyfriend, so the time I called was with her, so she was not comfortable speaking on the phone because her fiancé would question who she was speaking to, and if he found out she was speaking to a man, he would flip and beat her up. And then when she told me that, I became enraged because she should have sent me a text message stating she needed help or made signals so I could hear she was in danger, but she didn't. Instead, she remained there, waiting for her abusive animal to decide what to do with her. What astonished me was that I discovered she was still with him, which is why she did not want us to be in a relationship. I have difficulty understanding ladies at times. Would you rather stay in a relationship where you are treated like a punching bag than embrace the person who is willing to show you genuine love? When I inquired why she wasn't leaving the guy, she explained that she loved him and that they had been through a lot together, so she couldn't just end things with him. I knew that was just an excuse, and it was a very pathetic one at that, because I had lived with an aggressive person. When my mother attempted to end her relationship with my late father, he became aggressive against her. My father became enraged and informed her that they would never part up and were destined to stay together until death. Fortunately, and by God's grace, we learned a week later that my father was involved in a fight. He wasn't sober, so he picked a battle with the wrong mob, and he was stabbed. Unfortunately, he did not make it. He passed away on the way to the hospital. That was the day my mother regained her freedom and became herself again. And then was the day we felt our mother's love, because she was always doing everything right to satisfy my violent father, to the point where she forgot about her children and prioritized them over an abusive man. Me. So I knew how abusive individuals behaved and thought. I promised myself that once I got into a relationship, I would respect ladies and show them sincere affection. But where did that lead me? The worst thing was when I was cheated on by my sister's man, the one who was meant to show my sister affection, but he treated her in the most terrible way. Some men are sickos and they do not deserve wonderful ladies. I despised and still despise my ex-fiancé and ex-brother-in-law, since their affair not only ruined relationships, but also claimed my sister's life. My sister loved her partner so much that she would defend him when people warned her about her fiancé, and when she discovered that what they were saying was real, she couldn't accept and deal with it. However, she became so depressed that she resolved to commit suicide. I was likewise upset by my ex-fiancé and brother-in-law's affair, but I had to be a man and take care of my home and my mother's well-being. Mother was devastated by my sister's death and became ill as a result. I shared all of my experiences with Amina. I knew she wasn't going to leave her fiancé because her life was in danger. But I did it to think about it and make the proper decision for God's honor. Despite the difficulties, she listened to me and dumped her fiancé. But what she accomplished made me proud of her. Not because I wanted to be in a relationship with her, but because she was able to prioritize herself over a man. So she went to the police department and requested a restraining order against the man. 9 months later, our bond was still strong. She was also living freely. She no longer scared that her ex-fiancé would appear wherever she went. She no longer feared the unknown. Furthermore, she revealed her genuine self. Yes, she remained quiet and peaceful, but she cherished her life on the outside. She loves going on trips and discovering historical sites. I also found that she enjoyed history. She was a highly curious person who constantly wanted to know the history of everything she came across. She informed me that she aspired to be a historian or a time traveler because she loved everything about history. So I promised to take her to college so she could expand her understanding of history and pursue her desire of becoming a historian. I only wanted her to feel pure and sincere affection. I wanted her to be free and not believe that all men seek to dominate her like her fiancé did. She was apprehensive to accept my offer, but I told her that she had nothing to lose and she should let go of what her ex did, as much as it would not be easy. She had to beg herself to become better and go on. I couldn't believe Mike and his wife wouldn't help Amina when they were aware she was being assaulted. I was very disappointed in Mike. For real. I assumed he was a male, but he plainly was not. So I called off our friendship. I couldn't continue to be friends with someone who supported and tolerated women's abuse. That was not the type of friendship I wanted to be in. After a year, Amina and I were friends. She had accepted my offer, and I was glad she had made the right decision. So the following year, she enrolled in college and I paid. Obviously, as long as she was pursuing her ambition, I was satisfied. A couple months have gone. The love relationship began. And one thing I recall is that it was her birthday, so I prepared a surprise meal for her while she was living with me on the day she became a free woman. Her and my mother got along really well. Mother said she reminded her of Stacy, my sister, so she moved in with me because her abusive criminal owned the apartment she was staying in at the time. She had a class in college, so she wasn't home, giving me enough time to plan her surprise birthday supper. It would be just the three of us, my mother, her, and I. Mother would often wonder why I wasn't in a relationship with Amina, as she loved her for me. I then decided that on that day, I would disclose my affections for her. So when she returned later, we had a lovely romantic dinner, and my mother excused herself, allowing me to express my feelings. My palms were sweaty. I kept caressing them, hoping she wouldn't reject my proposition. So I managed to put on my big boy shoes and courageous expression. Then I explained how I felt. She fell silent for a moment. My knees were shaky at the time. My intellect was regretting my actions, but my heart was relieved that I had removed one burden that had been dragging on me for the past year. So, after she regained her composure, she informed me that she had not expected my confession. I took her by surprise. I already knew that. But I only needed one answer, and the answer was whether she agreed to be my girlfriend or not. People are unaware that I am a very impatient man when it comes to getting things done, and what Amina was doing was making me even more impatient. So I decided to give her some time to think things through, even though my emotions required an immediate response. But I couldn't rush her, you understand? The next day, as I was getting ready for work, she approached me and informed me that she had accepted my proposal. Mind you, my mind had already processed and accepted that she had rejected me. She also said that she felt the same way I did, and that she had not felt this way in a long time. But she couldn't tell me because she assumed I was treating her as her sister because she had moved in with me and my mother. My heart felt at ease after our connection began. I respected my consciousness because it kept reminding me that as much as I loved the girl, I shouldn't place all my eggs in one basket and leave room for disappointment because we never know what tomorrow would bring. But I didn't listen, and instead poured my heart and soul into the relationship, which nearly destroyed me. I had no reservations about declaring my love to her. I was free, you understand? I became liberated and failed to leave room for disappointment. Some people refer to the early stages of a relationship as the honeymoon phase. It's difficult to take advice or listen to your intuition since you're so engrossed in your new relationship that nothing else matters, not realizing that I was digging my own shallow grave. A year into our relationship, I decided to take things to the next level. I adore this chick. She pulled out the best in me, becoming my best friend and pillar. I wouldn't say she was my strength because my mother was there for me. I was eager to build a life with her and raise her to be an honest person. I wanted her to bear me offspring who would carry on the empire's legacy. I'd started building. My IT company was doing nicely. Everything was running smoothly. I was fairly pleased of myself and what I had achieved. I even managed to get my mother out of Chicago and we relocated to North Carolina for a fresh start in a calm neighborhood. We were a lovely family of 3. Well, I don't know any relatives or extended family because my mother never mentions them when we talk or when I inquire. She would constantly reject a topic and move on to the next one. We tried to get it out of her, but she refused. So we gave up because it was obvious she didn't want anything to do with them. We needed to respect her decisions. Surely something significant had occurred between her and her family. So perhaps if we had pressed more, she might have become upset. I did not want to see my mother furious or depressed. I always want to see her happy, calm, and smiling. Her happiness was my first priority. Thus, I would always try to avoid doing anything that would disrupt her joyful and tranquil moments. Anyway, I proposed to Amina and she clearly said yes. We chose to start planning our wedding in 9 months because she was busy with education, travel, and historical sites. I honored her decision, even though I wanted to marry her on the same day that I proposed to her. I mean, she had no family members. She once informed me that her extended family had disowned her after her grandma died, and she didn't know her parentage. She'd never heard anything about them. After 9 months, she was finally ready to begin wedding preparations. She decided that our wedding will take place in 6 months because she did not want to be under any planning pressures. She required constant availability in order to obtain all of her requirements. I tried to protest about it, but my mother informed me that every woman strives for perfection when arranging her wedding. So I needed to be patient and follow her lead. So I obliged during the wedding planning process. She went out a lot. Apparently, she had made acquaintances at college and they were assisting her in planning. The only thing I contributed to the planning was funds. It was her and her new acquaintances whom I had no idea about or knew the names of. My conscience kept warning me that something smelled fishy, and I needed to pay attention to everything. My thoughts seized over, and I began bugging her phone because she was also acting strangely when I spoke with my mother about it. She told me that it could be wedding anxieties because a month had already passed since the start of wedding planning. I couldn't understand why she didn't want us to hire a planner because it's every woman's dream to have a planner for her wedding. Or am I mistaken? She was fascinated with wedding planning, or perhaps that's what I thought, so I was busy following her phone's whereabouts. I discovered that she was spending a lot of time in one motel in South Carolina. I couldn't figure out what she was doing in South Carolina when there were boutiques and everything she needed in North Carolina. That raised an eyebrow because she was no longer visiting historical locations for research, so one day she returned from the same hotel as my computer indicated. I asked where she was coming from. She informed me that she was hunting for a wedding dress, so she traveled to South Carolina because she couldn't find the dress she wanted locally. I didn't comprehend or believe her explanation because there was no dress for sale in a motel in South Carolina. My suspicions intensified as if conscience was telling me she was cheating and I needed to find out who she was cheating with rather than prepare our wedding. A part of me wanted to end the whole thing and let her go. So 4 months before our wedding, she began to resemble the Amina I had fallen for. We would spend the most of our free time together planning how we wanted our wedding to be, as if we were in love again. That was what I had assumed, but the female had a plan. So one night, I returned from work later than usual and I was unable to join her and my mother for supper. When I got to our bedroom, she was dressed in really attractive lingerie. I was tempted in an instant. Despite my tiredness, I couldn't resist her beautiful melanin body. One thing about Amina was that she was very gifted with her physique. She had the most beautiful body and I adored every inch of it. So we did what engaged people do and it was fantastic as usual. But she went above and beyond that night and I thoroughly liked it. A week later, I started feeling ill. I noticed a discharge and itching in my private area that I had no idea where it was coming from. I felt aches in my pelvis. I also started going to the restroom more often. That was extremely odd for me because I had never experienced anything like that before and it scared me because I had no idea what was going on. I felt I had a fatal sickness, so I told my mother what was going on. Another thing that made me feel less of a man was the fact that I could no longer please my fiancé. As a result, she returned to her habit of going out frequently. My mother informed me that what I was feeling were indications of a STI. I could not believe her. She then advised me to see the doctor for a checkup to ensure that it was not a STI. So I took a leave of absence from work and went to the doctor because I was so terrified about losing Amina. What was happening to me was terrifying and all I could think of was cancer or some other horrible and fatal ailment. So when I visited the doctor, he verified my mother's worries. Indeed, I have a STI, and the doctor asked that I bring my partner along to ensure she wasn't infected. I was perplexed by what the doctor stated when he said he needed to see whether my spouse was not contaminated. So it occurred to me, as the doctor suspected, that I was cheating and had the potential to infect my partner, which led me to believe that I had received it from Amina. I mean, she kept going to the same hotel in South Carolina, claiming to be looking for a wedding dress. I became enraged since the last time we had been sexual was when she surprised me with lingerie. But where did she obtain it? So I waited for her to return from wherever she was coming from. I didn't even bother looking up her cell phone coordinates that day because I was preoccupied with something else. My mother was begging me to calm down and talk to Amina calmly, but I was too angry to hold a normal discussion. So when she got back, I asked her to accompany me to the doctor. She began by throwing tantrums when I recommended it and asking if I didn't trust her. Her reaction perplexed me and enraged me since it indicated that she knew something. So I kindly inquired about her location and advised her not to think of lying to me. Then she said the most shocking thing I've ever heard. She confessed that she had reconciled with her abusive ex-fiancé and was spending the majority of her time in a motel in South Carolina with him. She began apologizing for this and explained that she was afraid to inform me she had a STI. So she slept with me that day in order to blame me and make it appear like I was the one who cheated. I could not believe my ears. I thought I had heard something wrong, but the woman had the audacity to tell me that I couldn't control myself. I found myself strangling her on our bed until my mother interrupted and begged me to stop. I could see the trauma on my mother's face. And Amina, as both were survivors of abusive relationships, Amina had returned to her abuser. So I will not count her. She was the dumbest lady I'd ever met. So I decided to leave the house and go to the hotel to hack their CCTV system and see what was going on in the room where Amina was spending time with her criminal. When I acquired it, I watched recordings of them becoming kinky with each other. My blood was boiling, so I made bogus social media accounts and shared the videos online. I felt offended, angry, disappointed, and impatient. I wanted to wreck her life in the same way that she did mine. She was also selfish. In fact, she assumed I wouldn't find out about her infection. I ended my relationship with her when the video went viral. My mother was devastated since she had raised her as a daughter just to be let down. I instructed her to leave, and I was relieved she was earning her own money, so there was nothing that could tie me to her anymore. I hated her and still do. She performed the cruelest thing a human could do to another person. She kept apologizing, but I would not forgive her. I sought help and addressed the infection. Fortunately, it had not spread or become serious, so I followed all of the doctor's directions and promised myself that I would never be engaged with a woman. Not after everything I'd been through. After the videos went viral, I learned that the criminal abuser was actually a wanted suspect, so the videos I linked helped the police department catch him. It was painful to terminate things with the person I loved and shared my life with, but I had to put myself first, and I couldn't leave my mother alone. I'm too young to die, guys. Do you think I handled things better, or was I too harsh by airing my ex-fiancé's dirty laundry for the world to see? Please advise me. My name is Karen. I am 26 years old and have had a relationship with Adam, the love of my life. Adam was 1 year older than me and we met in college, but today I'm not here to discuss my love story. Today I'm going to share something I did that was quite unlike me. I was out with my pals for my bachelorette party, and everything was going well until I got married. I am now in a quandary. I'm not sure if I should tell Adam about it or just bury it and take it to my grave. This is going to be a very long post. So buckle in for a crazy ride. Adam and I had been together since the first day of college. We were in the same classrooms and quickly developed great friendships. Our connection grew stronger as we worked through the hurdles of our coursework together, supporting and motivating one another along the way. I was coming from an all-girls school, and Adam was my first interaction with a man outside of my family. Adam's presence in my life was a welcome adjustment, allowing me to see the world from a new perspective. His easygoing personality and sense of humor made our friendship feel effortless, and I soon realized he was more than simply a friend to me. I wondered if he thought the same of me. As time passed, I began to notice small indicators that made me wonder if Adam felt the same way. The way he looked at me, the inside jokes we shared, as well as the increasing amount of time we spent together, seemed to indicate that there was more to our relationship than friendship. However, I couldn't help but be cautious to express my thoughts to him, thinking that it might destroy our friendship. It was almost time to leave college. We were about to graduate, but my relationship with Adam showed no signs of growth. So maybe, like me, he didn't want to ruin our friendship, and this was why he was hesitant to ask me out. Despite our close bond and the endless hours we spent together, the romantic tension between us stayed hidden. I couldn't help but wonder if taking a leap of faith and sharing my emotions would bring us closer together or jeopardize everything we had created. Adam's parents had planned a graduation party at their home for us. It seemed weird that 3 years had passed and we were about to graduate. I got ready and left for the party. The decor and everything else had a different vibe than the graduation theme. I was asked to wait in the backyard while Adam got ready. That's odd. I've seen him in his comfortable t-shirts during our home studies. I began wandering around his property and observed a few items hanging from the tree. I approached the tree and began investigating what it was. There were pictures of Adam and myself hanging on the tree, reflecting our memories from our years of friendship. It was a nice surprise, and I couldn't help but smile as I reflected on the many memories we had spent together. Was this a sign that Adam was planning to make a move tonight? I was overcome with emotions, and I knew that if Adam had approached me and asked me out right now, I would have answered yes with tears in my eyes. Adam's mother came back and begged me to enter. I walked into the living room, which was dark and barely lit by a few candles. It was tough for me to navigate because I had hit my leg as I began to move forward. So I stood still, allowing my eyes to acclimate to the darkness. It was still too dark to take any steps. I then heard Adam from a distance, urging me to take care not to walk on anything else. I finally got to the point where I could see a little. As I approached, the lights turned on, and I saw Adam on his knees, holding a ring. I was overcome with astonishment and delight when I realized Adam was proposing to me. Tears welled up in my eyes, so I answered yes and hugged him hard. My heart pounded with joy as I immediately accepted his compassionate gesture, knowing that this moment would be forever inscribed in our minds. Adam promised to always be there for me, guiding me through the darkness. It was so wonderful and profound that I can't imagine a better proposal than this. We chose to marry after a year because Adam knew I was obsessed with planning the perfect wedding. It's not my fault that I grew up in an all-girls school and dreamt about films like 27 Dresses and Bride Wars. I thought 1 year would be enough time for me to properly plan and execute every detail of our wedding, from the venue to the flowers. I wanted everything to be picture perfect, and I wanted enough time to choose the dress of my dreams and make sure that all of my bridesmaids understood their roles and responsibilities. Additionally, I wanted to take the time to thoroughly learn Adam's preferences and incorporate them into our big day, ensuring that it reflected both of us as a couple. Because we all went to the same school, I asked all of my pals to assist me in selecting the venue and my wedding dress. As teenagers, my friends and I would often discuss the type of guy we would marry, as well as the specifics of the venue and attire. I knew we'd be equally excited about everything, and I wanted all of that great energy around me. I was really thrilled about the wedding, which was only a month away. It had always been my dream to marry the guy I loved in a destination wedding with all of my friends as bridesmaids. It was finally happening, and I couldn't have asked for anything more in life. The excitement rose as the big day approached, and I couldn't help but be grateful for my friends' support and affection throughout the entire process. We'd shared innumerable hopes and aspirations together, and now we were seeing one of them realized. I was also grateful to Adam for remembering my fantasies and desires, and not becoming upset by my excessive enthusiasm during the wedding preparations. Adam wanted to give me a week off before the wedding so I could unwind and treat myself without worrying about the wedding. We flew to Miami a week before the wedding. I got into the hotel and proceeded to my room. All of my girlfriends were waiting in the room to surprise me. They had adorned the room with balloons, streamers, and a banner that said, "Bride-to-be." I was overjoyed and grateful to have such fantastic friends who went above and beyond to make me feel special. We spent the evening laughing, remembering, and indulging in delectable goodies to celebrate the forthcoming wedding. It was the perfect way to begin my week of relaxation and pampering before saying I do. My girlfriends planned a bachelorette party for me 2 days before my wedding. Adam was the only guy I had ever been with in my entire life. On our way to the club, my buddies started making fun of me for not experimenting or even considering having some experience with other males before deciding to get married. I always felt fortunate that Adam was my first boyfriend, and I was confident that he would never let me down. I had no need to look for other men because he had everything I was looking for in a man to marry. I was sure in my decision to marry Adam since our relationship had always been happy and loving. However, as my wedding day came, a small part of me wondered what it would be like to have had previous relationships. Nonetheless, I knew deep down that Adam was the right person for me and our love was strong enough to survive any misgivings or questions. I trusted my intuition and thought that genuine love does not necessitate comparison or exploration. The responses from my pals made me wonder if I was missing out on anything. Nonetheless, my everlasting love and pleasure with Adam reminded me that I had made the correct decision, and the party was held at a club that my buddies had chosen because it had the best bar and the best music. There were plenty of drinks and the music was exactly great. My buddies wanted me to let go because it would be the final time I could have fun without worrying about the consequences. I was apprehensive at first, but I felt horrible for spoiling the fun because they had gone to such great lengths to ensure my enjoyment. So I decided to give in to their requests and have some fun for today. I ordered a round of tequila shots for everyone to show that I agreed to what they had planned for me. As the night went on, the atmosphere grew more boisterous and carefree. The laughing and cheers filled the air, evoking a sensation of emancipation. I let go of my fears and embraced the moment, realizing that it's vital to have spontaneous experiences without overthinking the repercussions. I wanted to show my pals that I could be fun and outrageous without being stuck up all the time. We went to the bar and I ordered another round of shorts because I was on my final shot. I felt some unknown hands on my back. I turned around and saw a guy stripper. I had asked my pals not to arrange anything as insane as this, but they, being my friends, did not listen. The male stripper took my hand and led me to the dance floor. He started making sexual motions to impress me. I decided to act like I was having fun and danced with him. I attempted to mimic his movements and be in the present. He moved slowly to the center of the dance floor and forced me to sit in a chair that was waiting for me. There was a spotlight on the chair and everyone surrounding me began roaring for me to sit down. There was an announcement from the DJ to give it up for the soon-to-be bride. I did not want to disrupt the joy, so I went ahead and took the spot I was supposed to. The stripper then started dancing around me and then gave me a lap dance. I was feeling all kinds of things in my stomach that I wasn't sure if it was because of the drinks or the lap dance. I told my friends that I needed some air and got out of the club. I puked everything that I had been drinking and was feeling much better. I went back inside and made my way to the bar. I was trying to ask for some water, but the bartender was too busy to even look in my direction. He was busy flirting with another girl. I was about to give up when I noticed a bottle of water placed beside me. I felt very unsure as it might have been spiked. To my surprise, it was unsealed, so I opened it and drank. I was feeling so good after hydrating myself. I noticed that the guy on my right was looking at me with a smile plastered on his face. I gave him a very annoying look, as I knew guys always thought that it was easy to pick up girls at a bar. He said that usually in such situations people say thank you. I was not interested in talking to him and was about to go back to my friends. I felt embarrassed that he was trying to help me and here I was being very mean to him. I told him that I was sorry and I could make up for it. He said there was something I could do to make up for this mistake. I was genuinely feeling bad for judging him quickly, so I agreed to make up for it. He asked me if I could spend some time with him and act as his girlfriend in front of his friends who were at the dance floor. I wasn't sure if he was making up stories just to get talking to me or he was really serious. I decided to see for myself and that it would be okay if it was true. I would just be helping someone in need. I agreed and we went with him to the dance floor holding each other's hands. He pulled me by my hand and took me to where his friends were. He introduced me as his girlfriend, but nobody would believe him. They said that the only way they could believe that I was his girlfriend was if we kissed each other. At this point, things were getting really awkward, and it would be absurd for me to do something like kissing a stranger so spontaneously. I was trying my best to think of a way to get out of the situation. Then, even before I could realize, he kissed me. It was a very passionate and electrifying kiss. I could not stop myself from reciprocating it. I almost forgot that I did not know him. He looked at all his friends and told them if they would believe it now. They all looked satisfied that I was indeed his girlfriend. He excused us from them and said we were going to the bar for a few more drinks. He kept apologizing profusely for what he did back there, as he had no choice. He had to make sure that his friends stopped making fun of him for not having a girlfriend. I told him that it was not okay, but I understood where he was coming from. We ordered a few drinks and he told me that it was on him for what he did just now. I wanted to refuse, but he was insistent. The DJ started playing one of my favorite songs and I pulled him to the dance floor. We started dancing, and I'm not sure if it was the alcohol or the kiss that took over me. I started swaying to the beats of the song and whispered in his ear that he was a good kisser. He smiled at me and whispered very slowly in my ear if I wanted some more of it. I guess there was no harm in flirting with a stranger. I mean, we are never going to meet ever again in our lives. I would be married in the next 2 days and he would be, I don't know, finding a girlfriend for himself. I thought there was no harm in being a little naughty, as today was all about letting go. I took my face very close to his lips and pecked his lips lightly. That was a cue to him, and he kissed me back very aggressively. There was something different about the way he kissed me that I could not get enough of it. After making out for a while, I realized that my friends might be searching for me. I told him to wait on the dance floor and that I'll be right back. I found my friends who were searching for me outside. I went to them and told them that I wasn't feeling too well and that I had to go home. I asked my friends if they had planned anything else that I would be missing. They told me that the stripper was the last thing that they had planned, so I was happy that I would not be ruining their fun. They asked me if they could help me get back to the hotel, to which I said that I would be fine. I knew I was being a bad friend by ditching them in the middle of a party organized by them for me, but they were not wrong in telling me that today would be the last day of my freedom. I could never be able to do anything as random as this ever again in my life. I hugged and thanked them for everything that they had done for me today, and also all help that they did with the wedding preparations. I was truly grateful to have such wonderful friends. I went to the dance floor and started looking for the guy just met and kissed. I found him waiting for me at the dance floor just where I had left him. I pulled his hand and took him out of the club. Once we got out of all that music and noise, I asked him if he had a car. He looked at me with mischief in his eyes, as if he understood what I was thinking. I told him that it's not what he's thinking. It's just that I wanted to get out of here. We got in the car and sat in silence for 1 minute. I was waiting for him to drive, but I don't know what he was waiting for. After about a minute, I looked at him with a puzzled face. He said that he was still drunk and cannot drive. I was about to get out of the car when he suddenly pulled me towards him and started kissing me. I tried to resist this for like 10 seconds, but he was so good that I just wasn't able to stop myself. He kept whispering sweet nothings in my ear that made me blush. He asked me to move to the back seat as it was more spacious. We moved to the back seat and started kissing each other again. We started undressing each other without breaking the kiss. After making out and being completely spent, we just hugged and lied down together. This was the wildest thing I had ever done. It had always been my fantasy to make out in a car. Adam had never been to the wild. He was always well disciplined and a well-mannered gentleman. He never even allowed me to do anything or crazy. What I did just now felt so right and so good that I forgot about everything else. After lying naked for a long time, we slowly got up and dressed ourselves. As I was about to get up and leave his car, he told me that I was the wildest person he had come across in his entire life. I could tell that he was a smooth talker who knows how to make girls blush. I thanked him for the compliment and decided to leave when he got up, came closer to me, and kissed me again. God, he was making it very difficult for me to leave. I just wanted to keep kissing him for a really long time. He knew he had that effect on me. He whispered in my ear that there was some motel nearby where we could crash for the night. Since he was drunk, he couldn't drive me home and would not like for me to go all by myself so late at night. He told me that he would be sober by morning and could drop me home then. I knew exactly where this was going, but I pretended not to and agreed to what he was saying. This was probably the last time I would be meeting him, as I really wanted to make the most out of tonight's situation. For me, it was like a sign from God to forget everything and enjoy it to the fullest. So we went to the motel and got out of the car and walked towards the room. We booked a room at the motel for the entire night. On our way to the motel, we bought a few bottles of beer to enjoy the night. We sat on the bed and there was an awkward silence. I decided to break silence by opening a can of beer. I passed a candle to the guy and we started drinking. I know that being sober would not help me to continue this. As we drank, we became a little more relaxed and started kissing each other. I could see that both of us would be blaming the alcohol in the morning for whatever happens tonight. We started making out again on the bed, which was much more spacious than the back seat of the car, to be very honest. I was enjoying the bed much better as it had more room to access a lot of parts that I previously couldn't. We were making love and touching each other everywhere and moaning loudly. After some time, we got tired and just lied on the bed. I could not remember the last time I had so much fun having sex with Adam. I woke up the next morning to the sound of my alarm blaring in the room. I tried to find my phone, but everything looked so different and so new that I did not realize where I was. I finally found my handbag, pulled out my phone, and switched off the alarm. I sat on the floor, trying to make sense of where I was. This was definitely not my hotel room. I tried to recollect the events from last night and looked at the bed. There was someone sleeping on the bed, completely naked, and I had no idea who it was. I didn't realize that I was naked myself. Shit. Did I just make out with someone I met yesterday at the bar? I don't even know his name. I wasn't that drunk that I don't remember what I was doing. I mean, I do remember what I did, but it was not like me to act this way. My head was spinning. I did not know if it was because of the hangover or the realization of what had happened last night. I started looking for my clothes, dressed myself, and slowly gathered my belongings and rushed out of the room, making sure that whoever was sleeping did not wake up. It would have been too embarrassing if he woke up and started to have a conversation about last night. I definitely did not want him talking to me or to do anything with me. I was happy to get out of there unnoticed and without further complications. I got into a taxi and started making my way towards the hotel we were staying at. I pulled out my phone and saw lots of messages and missed calls from my friends and Adam. I was panicking right now as I did not know how to handle the situation. Should I tell the truth or lie to them? It was my wedding tomorrow, and I knew for sure that I did not want the events from last night to affect my wedding in any way. I tried going through the messages from my friends. All of them just said that they were worried if I had reached the hotel as I was not answering their calls or replying to their messages. They did come and knock on the door, but I never answered. They were worried if I got sick right before the wedding. There was no sign of doubt from any of them that I wasn't in my room. That was a good thing I had in relief. I then read Adam's messages that he came to my room in the morning but I wouldn't open. He too was worried and wanted to make sure that I was okay. I looked at the time and it was almost noon. Should I tell Adam that I slept with my friends because I was too drunk after the bachelorette party, or should I just come clean to him about last night's events? I couldn't think straight as the hangover was killing me. I decided to first reach the hotel and then decide how things panned out. There was no use sitting in the car and panicking when I wasn't aware of the situation on the ground. I slowly sneaked into my hotel room, making sure none of my friends or Adam caught me. I quickly showered and got dressed. I called my friends and told them that I was pretty sloshed last night, so I couldn't answer any of their calls or texts. They were happy that I finally let myself out last night and had a good time. They told me that from tomorrow I would have to be the proper and elegant wife of Mr. Adam Baker, and all of them laughed. I laughed along with them, mostly because I was nervous and guilty. Boy, did they know that I let go of myself and how they would have fainted if I shared the details from last night. They wouldn't even believe me for a second, as they never saw me with the guy. Well, it was a good thing for them not to know. They might blurt it out during the wedding and mess up everything. I made my decision to tell a single soul about last night after dealing with my friends. It was now time to deal with Adam. I took a deep breath and made my way to his room. He opened the door and let me in. I told him the same story that I told my friends. Of course, if I was going to lie, then I might as well keep it consistent. I didn't want to get caught up in my own lies. We all then gathered for the dress rehearsal as I walked down the aisle. I saw Adam standing at the aisle, and standing beside him was the best man. There was a look of horror on my face when I saw the best man. He was the guy from last night, from the bar. He had an innocent smile on his face as if he did not even recognize me. I composed myself and continued walking down the aisle. I had been a nervous wreck since I saw him here, of all the places in the world. Everyone kept asking me to relax and calm down as they thought it was wedding jitters. They had no idea the amount of panic I was in right now as I stood at the altar. I couldn't help but wonder if he remembered our encounter. The memories of last night flooded my mind, making it hard to focus on the joyous occasion unfolding before me. I silently prayed that he wouldn't say or do anything to disrupt the wedding, desperately hoping that my secret would remain buried in the depths of last night's hazy escapades. From the look on his face, it didn't seem like he remembered anything, and neither did he make any attempts to try and tell Adam about last night. I finally relaxed my body and decided to enjoy the moment. After all, it was my wedding that I had planned for an entire year. After the dress rehearsal, I breathed a sigh of relief and went to my room. I locked myself and fell to the ground, releasing all my nervousness. My friends kept knocking at the door to check on me. I showed them in when they asked me if I was fine. I looked very pale and nervous throughout the entire event. I lied to them that I still had a hangover and did not completely sober up. Maybe if I rested a bit I would feel better. Of course, I was not going to tell them anything from last night. I decided not to mention it to anyone. If no one knows, then no one will talk it. Simple and effective. After they left, Adam came to my room and asked me if everything was okay. He joked, asking me if I was having second thoughts about the wedding. I pushed him away and told him not to joke around, and as per the rules he was not allowed to come to my room. I pushed him out of the room, telling him that I would see him tomorrow. The altar. There was a knock again and I knew it would be Adam, so without any hesitation I opened the door to tell him to just go. The blood drained from my face when I saw the guy from the bar. I looked around and quickly pulled him inside. I did not want things to get out of hand at the very last minute. I made him sit and begged him not to tell anybody about last night. I explained that it was a mistake and that I was engaged to Adam and it was my bachelorette last night. Desperation filled my voice as I promised to make it up to him, somehow pleading for his understanding. The guy from the bar seemed taken aback by my sincerity, his expression softening as he listened, hoping he would keep my secret. I anxiously awaited his response, praying that he would agree to remain silent about our encounter. After a minute he told me that he had known Adam since childhood. He was also Adam's best man. Tomorrow, the wedding. I was half relieved that maybe he would not open his mouth about this if he cared about his friendship with Adam. He told me that he would, but he also told me he could not ignore what he felt with me last night. He kept pressing me, asking if I had not felt the same chemistry and sparks that he did. I could not deny the fact that there were definitely sparks last night, but it could also have been because of the alcohol. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond. The connection we shared was undeniable, but I couldn't ignore the potential consequences it could have on my wedding day. I told him that I truly loved Adam and would do anything that I could to make sure that our wedding goes smoothly without any complications. He said that then there was nothing else he could do. If I had made my decision, he would have to agree to my wishes. I breathed a sigh of relief. He then stopped and said that he wasn't gaining anything from it. I mean, I would marry Adam just like I wanted to. Adam would not know about our encounter. But what was he getting out of all this? I was trying hard to explain to him that he would be gaining Adam's friendship for his entire life. He did not look convinced. He asked me again if I was willing to do anything for him to keep it a secret. I vehemently nodded my head in agreement. He came very close to me and whispered that he always had a fantasy to have sex with the bride as the best man. I gasped in shock and took a step back. He smiled wickedly and said that we just had to continue with where we left off from yesterday. It would not be that difficult. He also added that he was a little too drunk to enjoy last night and it was a good thing that he was sober now. He said that this was the only way or else he would be going straight to Adam's room after this. I felt like I had been pushed to a wall and had no choice. I made him promise not to tell Adam about any of it. I reluctantly agreed to his demand. He came towards me and we passionately started kissing each other. To my surprise, I knew that he was blackmailing me into doing this, but I was actually enjoying it. He was a really good kisser. Within minutes we undressed and were on the bed. We had wild sex, and now that I was in my senses, I could tell that this was by far the best sex I had so far. After we were done, I quickly covered myself and asked him to leave. I opened the door to make sure that there was no one around before asking him to step out. It was D-Day. I was all nervous and felt like I would cry even if the slightest thing went wrong. Everyone kept telling me that I looked very pretty, all dressed up. My mind was thinking, what would Adam be doing? And would his best man keep his promise? Every time someone would come up with an update, I would jump expecting that it could be the news of the wedding being called off. It was finally time for me to walk to the altar. I could see Adam well-groomed and with his best smile looking at me. And then my eyes looked at his best man who winked and gave me a wicked smile. I decided to focus entirely on Adam as it was our big day, and I did not want anyone to ruin it for us. We took our vows and finally were pronounced husband and wife. Hey you all, I ask you for your advice on what I should do going forward. It is now 1 week since my wedding with Adam, but the guilt is killing me. I had no clue that a random night with a random stranger would change the course of my life. One day he was a stranger and the next day he was my soon-to-be husband's best man for life. Could not get any more complicated for me. Should I just admit everything that happened between me and the stranger to Adam? At least I can ask for forgiveness for my sins and promise that I would never, ever let this happen again. Would that be enough? I don't want Adam to know from somewhere else about this, and I want to be the first person to break this news to him. Would I be risking my marriage, which is just a few days old, by telling him the entire truth that night? Please, I really need you guys to advise me as I am unable to make up my mind as to what to do next, what would be best for me, and also at the same time try to cause as little damage to my relationship with Adam. I am eagerly awaiting your opinions and thoughts. Thank you for taking the time to hear today's story. If you enjoyed the article, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a tale to share with me regarding your own or someone else's circumstance, please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.